When other books on focus are all about how to improve your attention through practice, willpower, and deliberate training, this month's book recommendation is all about how to improve your focus by identifying and eliminating the root causes that trigger distractions. So today I'm going to talk about a book called Indistractable: How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life by Nir Eyal. Hey, this is Michael Rincon with Michael's Business English. For those of you who have no idea who I am, my name is Michael Rincon. I'm a former six-figure data analyst turned ESL instructor and career coach, and I support English language learners improve their career development through communications and language training. If you're new here, on this channel, we talk about business English, communications, and career development. So if you're into that, make sure you like and subscribe, and all the links that we mentioned in this video you can find in the description box below. So before I get into this, I want to bring up why is it that reading books is important. It's something I think I need to remind my audience every time, because if you're watching this, this is your first time watching, this might be the first time you've seen a book recommendation of mine, or if you've been following me for a while and you're still like, I'm not sure, books versus like blog posts versus YouTube videos. A book is about a single topic in great detail. What I've been finding, especially what makes books more powerful than blogs or videos, is that a book is a story. And what I've been finding is that the antidotes in these books are what really trigger the results, right? It's not like the 5 things you need to improve focus right now, because if that's all you needed was a blog post, then I promise you, you probably wouldn't be on this video. You probably wouldn't be needing help with things like focus, because all you have to do is read the blog post and say, oh, step 1, do this. But what I found is that sometimes books have the antidotes that trigger the changes in you that you need. It's like, now I get it. So that's why I like books over other topics, and I like books as a important habit. So if you haven't seen the Miracle Morning book recommendation, which is all about how to start building your habits, including reading, I recommend you check that out first. Now this book in particular, Indistractable, was actually a recommendation from a guy named Jordan Organ from Stop the Vanilla. They are a digital marketing agency. And Jordan in particular, he's interesting because he reads 1 book a week. So very interesting that he's able to do all that. I've gone through books about focus, like Deep Focus by Cal Newport, and I'm actually due for a refresher on that book. But what I found interesting about Indistractable compared to things like Deep Focus and some of the other books on flow and psychology and attention is that this is different in terms of like the process as well as psychology. So for example, one of the things that Nir talks about in Indistractable is how internal triggers cause us to get distracted, the thoughts we have that cause us to go reach for the phone that trigger us, as opposed to like how to just like, here are some quick tips you can do, some quick solutions. So I found this to be a really good resource that I think is worth checking out as a good book recommendation. Now comment below if you have read any books on focus or flow or anything like that, process improvement, anything that's similar in nature, and how that's worked for you. In Indistractable, Eyal reveals the psychology behind why we get distracted, what causes us to lose focus during a course or when we're working, why we're so tempted to check out our phones every 30 seconds, check the email, check social media. Indistractable is a 4-step framework for minimizing and eliminating distraction as much as possible. There's also another portion of the book that focuses on specific scenarios as well, like what to do in the workplace, how to be more present in relationships, and even how to help children become indistractable. Now, as a caveat, like, I don't have kids, but I actually found that section very helpful. It explains a lot of the other behavior I had. So, for example, it talks about like why children become so attached to social media and to video games in the online world. Which I can't cover in this video, we don't have enough time, but just an FYI, that might be something you might be interested in. So the 4-step framework is composed of 4 different parts. The first step is the internal triggers, which is basically these are your thoughts. These are things like cravings for sugar, right? You think of like, if you're a smoker, you have a craving for nicotine. Imagine like how your cravings could be like to check your email, to check your social media, like you just feel compelled. Like maybe you're aware of it, maybe you're not aware of it, like you just pick up your phone and start checking it, and just in the middle of something, maybe in the middle of dinner, middle of a meeting. So what Nir found is that internal triggers are actually a desire to get away from pain, or rather discomfort, the way he describes it. And in fact, what he found was that the brain is wired for discontentment naturally, because if happiness and pleasure were constant, we wouldn't feel the need to grow, we wouldn't feel the need to go and do more work and become better. It's for our survival to do it. I've seen quite a few suggestions online about how to use willpower to try and resist or ignore these cravings or impulses, like fight it, like resist it, like ignore it, right? And but what Nir Eyal found was that denial actually increases the desire for the bad behavior, right? If you suppress it, repress it, eventually it just comes back with full force and with a vengeance. So what he suggests instead is that we learn to notice and accept our cravings and handle them healthily, right? Instead of like suppressing it, he uses something called acceptance and commitment therapy as an example, which is a method for stepping back, noticing, observing the thoughts and the feelings, and letting the desire disappear naturally. And one study that he references found that smokers, what affected their desire was not how much time had passed after a smoke, but how much time was left before they could smoke again. It was about the way you think about craving, right? This is interesting to me because it coincides with a lot of content I've already been going through, which includes meditation, executive coaching, and even Alexander technique for method acting. In Wild Fit, for example, for diet, Eric Mendez has a suggestion for dealing with sugar cravings, which is just say not now, maybe later, instead of saying no, right? There's a small nuance there, like not now, maybe later. Because when you change around like that, it changes the way the emotions feel. It changes the way that the trigger feels in your mind. The second thing he talks about is something called traction, which is the opposite of distraction, right? Traction actually means to draw towards, like things we want. It's like the desires. One thing he said that I thought was interesting is that you can't call something a distraction unless you know what it's distracting you from, and what is your goal, right? So he talks about time boxing. Maybe you're familiar with that from Cal Newport's work for sure. I've seen some other people doing it too. Like I found a guy, they call it Productive Flourishing. He has a whole like program like how to time box. It's really nifty. I actually like it. So he talks about how to use time boxing, but he says to set intention instead of trying to force attention through willpower, right? So the difference is not about using like at 1 p.m. I'm going to do this, and 2 p.m. I'm going to do that, and 3 p.m. I'm going to do that. It's more about create templates. So for example, what I used to do was like at 1 p.m. I'm going to make a video. At 1:30 I'm going to end the video. At 2 o'clock I'm going to make the Canva image. And the problem with that is that's way too like hyper detailed and not realistic. I have no idea if I can do it in 30 minutes or not. So what he suggests instead is just make templates. To say at 5 o'clock I am going to relax. That can be watch TV. That can be hang out with my daughter. That can be play video games. That can be whatever it is, as long as that's your intention for that time. He also talks about the importance of why you need to plan out and actually make time for things you want to do. Make times for things that are enjoyable. Make time for your vices, so to speak. The third part of the four-part Indistractable model is something called external triggers, right? This is all about questioning our responses to current behavior. So, for example, when we get pings on Instant Messenger, we get text messages, we get emails. I don't know about you, but like when I get these push notifications on my phone, I just have to stop what I'm doing and just like, oh my God, I have to answer it right now. And one thing he suggests is that we need to ask, is this external trigger serving us, or are we serving the trigger? Because one thing he's pointed out is that quite a few marketers know that we're primed to check our phone when we hear pings. So a ping can be a text message that's like emergency mom. It could also be an advertisement from some telemarketer. So what Nir suggests is finding ways to minimize and even hack like your notifications and things like your computer and your phone, and make the things so that only certain people can actually get through your do not disturb period. Some other suggestions includes something as nuanced as having a minimal workspace, because the less distractions you have in your workplace, the better. Meaning that you're not, even just the mere thing of having your phone there increases your attention to it and causes it harder for you to focus. So, there's more details in the book, but just as an FYI, it's very interesting how that works. Another example was that he talks about even a clutter-free desktop has advantages. because you're removing unwanted external triggers from our line of sight. It declutters our workspace and frees the mind to concentrate on what's really important. So one thing he suggested, what I've been doing, is I've been leaving my phone in another room when I'm working like this, so I'm less tempted to go look at my phone, like, oh my god, what's going on? This girl texts me back from OkCupid, oh my god, like trying to like focus on the things that really matter, because the girl who texted me back, she can wait, an hour, right? Hopefully she can wait anyway. So the final part of the Indistractable model is distraction, which is basically how do you prepare for inevitable distraction, right? Because the reality is you're going to get interrupted throughout your day. People are going to come and say, hey Mike, how you doing? They come to your desk. People are going to call you unexpectedly. People are going to drop by unannounced. There's going to be changes in the weather. And one thing he says, one of the solutions he suggests is the power of pre-commitments. So one example he found was that if you make a bet financially, maybe you've heard of this, you are much more likely to commit to follow through with your commitment of abstaining from a certain behavior. You will eventually train yourself to not want it. Another example is to make things harder to do. So for example, there are certain apps that restrict social media usage at specific times on your computer and your phone. And it's an effort to train yourself not to overuse it, because if you're familiar with the idea of the elephant with the limiting belief, the elephant who learns at a young age that he cannot break free of rope, as an adult learns that he cannot break free of the same rope, even though physically he can, he believes he can't. Now that's a metaphor in limiting beliefs, but it also applies here in the sense that if you train yourself enough, you will eventually stop trying. So you can train yourself to actually stop using social media on a whim, stop getting controlled by the external triggers, and instead plan to use it. So like right now, I have my schedule so that I check my email right after my miracle morning routine. So you may be familiar with that one. I also check my email right after dinner. Same thing with social media. I also do that at the same time periods, because I check my email, check my social media, check my messages, and anything urgent, like I have special like notifications that only certain people in my family and some of my people in my network know, so they can contact me in case there's emergencies they need to do. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. To conclude, to summarize this, Indistractable is all about how to become more focused in your life by removing the distractions, by improving processes, by limiting distractions as much as you can, by building habits and creating tools and processes so you can minimize it altogether. Okay, so with that being said, if you have any additional questions, I will be writing a blog post for this video to supplement it with additional content that you might find useful. So be on the lookout for that. Check the description box below. If you have any questions, feel free to write a comment below, or send me a DM on social, or shoot me an email at support@michaelsbusiness.com is the best way to do it. I hope to hear from you soon. If you have any book recommendations you want me to review next, let me know. I don't know what I'm going to review next. I'm actually not sure what I'm going to read now. I just finished Indistractable, and I'm kind of like, what do I read next? So I'm going to be kind of on hiatus for the next couple of days while I figure that out. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. See you guys next time.